Hello, I'm Brenda Combs. I'm the due process person here at Kentucky Valley Education Cooperative, and today we're still working on our sequence of our IEP guidance document. Today's session is going to be on the considerations of special factors. As we talked about last time, the present levels, when you're writing those, needs to be consistent throughout your IEP. So it must be consistent when we're writing our 6 special factors. The first special factor that we're going to be talking about today is behavior. The number one question says, if the child has a behavior that impedes his or her learning or that of others, then we must address that. It also has to be addressed in your present levels under your social and emotional statements. So if you click yes, that means you have to address how you're going to work with this child to help him with those or her with those behaviors. If you check no, then you have nothing in your present level statement. It's marked commensurate with peers. So we just need to make sure that that box is checked appropriately. We have to make sure if a child is EBD, that box must be marked and it has to be addressed. If a child is ADHD, ADD, OA, all those different things, all the health pieces, if they have issues with those, then again, that is a behavior that we must address. We can even go to the other end of the spectrum if a child is shy. So we have to look at different things, and the ARC has to determine the priority of the needs and then consider if that's going to be a factor or not. So we just need to make sure that we mark that box appropriately as it is aligned with your present levels of performance. There are a list of guiding questions that go along with the behavior that you can look at, and I think it's on page 36 in your IEP guidance document. You can look over that, and that will help you determine that if you need to check the box yes or no. The next special factor that we're actually going to look at is going to be English learner. A student who is an English learner, the ARC has to consider the language needs described in the student's EL program service plan, and that's a lot of times called PSP, Program Service Plan, and it's related to student disability. Now, does that mean that an EL student has a disability? It may not be. We're talking about a student that's EL that has a disability. Just because they're EL does not mean that they're a student with a disability. We have to remember that piece. These students are given what they call an access test, or it could be an alternate to that assessment to determine where they are with their reading, writing, language skills. And then the ARC looks at those types of things and they determine what do we need to do to help this child get better in those areas. And this applies to any child with any disability. So just make sure that the ARC does consider that. If it's an EL student, where are they and what are their needs? Again, there is another list of guiding questions that can help you with those factors to determine that if this child is EL, what do we need to work on with this child? What are the supports that we need to put in place? Those types of things. The third factor consideration is you're blind or visually impaired. Lots of times our students will have what they call a learning media assessment, and they will also have an eye medical statement. It will talk about the vision, what is the vision in one eye, 2 eyes, both eyes. And this gives us a way to know how bad the vision is of the child. When we're looking at that, we're looking at, does a child need Braille now? Will the child need Braille at a future date? Maybe due to an eye disease that progresses along to where they will eventually be blind. So the ARC has to discuss that. They have to discuss, do they need Braille now or do they need Braille in the future? Again, we have to have an eye report, and the ARC has to determine all these factors. There's a list of guiding questions that go along with the vision that you can look at. It actually talks about the assessment, the Braille. the accommodations that the student will need to help the child and support him or her in their classes. And it also talks about orientation and mobility that the student may need at a later date, and that's using the cane. The fourth factor is communication. And, for students with communication needs, the ARC addresses the student's language and communication needs in the areas of disfluency, impaired articulation, language impairment, voice impairment, delayed acquisition of language, or an absence of language. So these are the pieces that we look at when we're looking at communication. This is where the speech teachers will go in and they will do their assessments, and they'll have a written report. And when we're talking about the areas of disfluency, we're talking about things like stuttering, blocks, prolongations, or repetitions. So again, we have a list of guiding questions that will help you to determine what we need to write in our conference summaries, and what we need by the assessment, what kind of goals and objectives that we'll need to write for the communication piece. Your fifth special factors is deaf or hard of hearing. For a student who's deaf or hard of hearing, we've got to consider the student's language and communication needs and opportunities for direct communication with peers and adults in the student's language and communication mode. A functional hearing and listening and communication assessment can determine the degree of the hearing loss. Again, you will have a doctor's statement where they go to a specialist, and you will have that audiogram that will assist us with the hearing in both of their ears, so we can determine what we need to support these students with their educational program. We have guiding questions as well that go along with the deaf or hard of hearing. That will help you determine what you may want to write in the conference summary. The sixth and last special factor that we have is assistive technology. This is one area that we don't do very well with. Assistive technology can be something as simple as a pencil grip. It can be lighting. It can be a lot of things. A new document, assistive technology document, did come out last year. And I think everybody needs to look at that and discuss that at the ARC meeting in the event that there is a need for assistive technology for our students. But that is one area that I feel like when we say the word technology, we think it's a computer or a Chromebook or a calculator, but it's not. Like I said, it could be something as simple as a pencil grip. We do have an appendix that is in Appendix D in our IEP guidance document that you can look at, and it will have the definition as well as examples of assistive technology. The ARC has to determine the type and the device, if applicable, and the amount of services that's going to be needed. Will the child need to be trained on how to use these devices? Those types of things, and that needs to be documented in your conference summary. The ARC documents the needed assistive technology in the IEP, and they indicate the type and the statement of the device and services in that section at the end underneath in the box of assistive technology. Again, they are guiding questions that go along with the assistive technology that will help you better understand what assistive technology is. But I really feel the best thing we can do as teachers and administrators is to look at the new developed assistive technology document and go over that in each of our ARC meetings to determine if any of our students need assistive technology. Thank you.